Okay, so we're gonna talk for a few minutes about social media, and then we're gonna go right into our building our message little activity, and then we're gonna go into some interviews, some practice interviews. So we will not have time. I think Cindy had mentioned it before, and I think we mentioned at the beginning. We won't have time to interview everybody, so we're gonna need some volunteers. We'll kind of, once we get to that time, we'll actually catch up on some time here. We'll figure out how many we can work through, because again, 2 to 3 minutes is how long we'll get you on, and then we'll watch them together and do some friendly critiques. So start thinking about volunteering. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about social media. So again, as I mentioned before, 20 years ago, it was all about earned media. You wanted to be in the paper, you wanted to be on the 6 o'clock TV news, you wanted to be on the radio. As those mediums are starting to be utilized less and less, and especially hard copy, when so many people are looking at the paper online, media outlets are struggling from a financial standpoint. So more and more, what has become reality is going directly to your audience, be it social media. We actually like to use the term reach them where they live, work, and socialize, because that's where you're spending all your time. You're working, you're living, that's at home, and socialize. And by socialize, we mean what organizations are they going to? Do they belong to a little bit of work/social, or do they belong to the chamber? Do they belong to the Rotary? Are they soccer moms and dads every Saturday for 4 hours at a park? But then you also think online. Where are they living, working, and socializing online, that you can reach them as well? So that's really how I'd like you to start thinking when you're starting to think about reaching someone. Instead of just earned media, start thinking more grassroots. Start thinking live, work, socialize. And by socialize, it brings in the online component as well. So one of the first things you're going to think about is your target audience, or audiences, and we'll talk about that more tomorrow about our process, our communications tree, is you are going to run through an exercise for every audience, each of your target audiences, because there is no global audience. Okay, can we all agree on that? There is no, if you're trying to reach, I love the people who say, when I say, who do you want to reach? And they say, everybody. That's nice, I guess. You'd have to have billions to do it. But the reality is typically they don't want everybody. They've got audiences, they want core audiences. And while they might have multiple, what you want to do is figure out what the different audiences, segment them out, because chances are they're going to have a different approach. They're going to be on different social platforms, they're going to look at different websites, they're going to read different bloggers, they're going to do everything differently. They're going to watch different news, they're going to be in different organizations. So understanding them and breaking down, and the key terms we're looking at is motivators. What motivates an audience? Because at the end of the day, we want them to act. We're not just sharing information. I love those organizations that say, I want to spend a year just creating awareness. Makes me nervous, because they're only going to hire me for a year, because at the end, their boss is going to want results, and we spent a year doing awareness, and we didn't move anybody to action. So at the end of the day, that's your goal. We want people to learn about trees some more, because you've got to speak to them a certain amount of times before it becomes ingrained. And then at the end of the day, we want them to act on, right, at least these things, okay? So a couple things. Get to know your audience, find out what mediums there are. Teenagers change. As soon as, Facebook, well, first was MySpace, right? And then that became just, no one's on MySpace. Then it was Facebook, until all the parents got on Facebook. And so they all transitioned to Instagram. So, the teenagers are typically about 2 years ahead of us, right? Once we all get on board, then they all move, because the last thing they want is, I love the parents who are constantly jumping and following them. So understand what mediums they're on and how to best use them. And then, similar to media, you got to get started talking. You got to start posting. One of the things that I've been learning even more and more the last couple years is when I thought I was talking too much on social media, I still wasn't talking enough. Think how many people are on Facebook? Okay. Think about when you get, if you haven't been on for 3 days, heaven forbid, you're not on for 3 days. I know that's strange to some folks. If you haven't been on to 3 days, how long would you have to be on to catch up with all those 3 days? Right? You don't have that much time, right? They flow. It's depending on how many friends you have, right? The timeline keeps going and going and going. So think about if I'm trying to reach Jeremy and Jeremy gets on every 2 days, if I'm posting once a week or once every 2 weeks, the chances that he's going to see it, that it's not going to have gone 3 days, 4 days past him, and he's never going to spend that much time scrolling through Facebook. I'm hoping you're not spending that much time scrolling through Facebook, Jeremy. You know, the reality is I'm really not going to reach him. So you've got to do it more than you think. And what we typically suggest is to set out almost like you're a salesperson, set out a sales cycle, set out a social media cycle. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're going to post. We're going to have something on Facebook, whether it's your own post, whether it's finding an article. You've got to be regimented about it. If not, you can't just rely on when we think of something or something happens, we're going to post. It has to be more frequent because as people scroll through, people don't look every single day. Okay? So you've got to think more. There's always a fine line between overkill and frequency. The other thing that people and organizations forget, for-profit businesses are the worst about this, don't forget the social part of social media. Yes, a lot of us are trying to educate, create awareness, move people to action, sell product on social media. But people get very turned off if every time they see you, it's always about an issue or always about something you want them to do. Don't forget the social part of social media. It is supposed to be fun. It is supposed to be an active, right? Interactive, sorry. It's supposed to be friendly. And it's not just supposed to be selling, because someone's gonna unfriend you or unlike your page. Okay? So that means try to think a little outside the box. Try to think of other things you could be doing, other things you could highlight, other fun stuff that you could also be doing. So not always go water your trees, go do save a tree. Don't forget the social part of social media. The other thing, and I think we touched upon it briefly, is find organizations that already have a good network of the people you want. Figure out who it is you want by segments, by audiences, and figure out if there's a local soccer league in your town that's got all the moms you want, reach out to them. Reach out to them and see how they can help. If you can get them to retweet you, if you can get them to like your face, then you're going to reach their 250 people as opposed to you trying to build a network one person at a time. Okay? We do, but understand as you're trying to build your network, you are going to spend some time just doing outreach. And what we typically will have someone in our office or someone at the client's office, just who do we want to connect with? And the first way to do it is you reach out to them. Like them. A lot of times they're going to like you back. They're going to reciprocate. Okay? So you are going to spend just some hands-on time, some monotonous hands-on time getting started. But again, the fastest, try to avoid trying to build everything one friend, one follower, one liker at a time. try to find an organization that already has your target audience. And with those organizations, we would typically go beyond just liking their stuff or liking their page or following them. We will actually reach out to them as well and say, you know, we'd love to partner with you. We'd love to share some information. You know, would you be willing to share some of our information via your social media sites? So one, they can actually start there, and there's two levels of that we typically look at. There are people that just passively like our stuff, like our client stuff. And then there's folks that who want to get involved more. Maybe they're, you know, something to do with the environment. Maybe there's something to do with natural resources. Maybe they're not. They just like the issue. And so what we actually do with them is create an army of social media organizations, and then we provide, just like we have our own calendar of every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday we're posting, in addition to, I'm at this conference, or this great news story came up on a Thursday, so I'm gonna post it, those types of things. We're actually providing our partners with their own schedule. Would you be willing to post twice a week on your site? They're going to do it less than you. Or would you be willing to post once a week about us to start, about our issue? And so typically what you would do is make those on and off. So if you're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're doing Thursday. And you're providing, try to make it as turnkey as possible. The last thing you want to do is say, partner X, we'd love to have you start sharing our information on your social media site or sharing our issue on your social media site. Okay, you'll do it? Okay, go find your own stuff. Make up your own stuff. Provide them a calendar. We'll actually we'll do a calendar out for 6 months. We know in October this is happening, so we're going to focus on this. And fall starts here, and you know, those types of things we can tie into. We might not write every tweet or every Facebook post, but we know for this week, here's our theme. And then we'll start writing them as we get closer. And for a partner who's willing to do that, we actually provide them, here's the next 3 weeks worth of tweets or Facebook posts. And it makes it easy for them because they have it right there. Diana?
How do you do that? Would you send a message to the admin on another Facebook page? How would you reach out to
We actually call them. So one of the ways, the question was how do you create those partnerships? So we do it two ways. Sometimes, and there's some organizations initially we just want them to like us or follow our page or something. So a lot of times you just go and you follow them, and a lot of times they'll reciprocate. But when you're trying to create partnerships, we're actually also picking up the phone and saying we think we share, you've got folks that we'd love to communicate with. We may have folks that you like to communicate with. Would you be willing to share? Would you be willing to be a social media partner with us? So that's actually just like the reporters, that's on the phone. That's creating the relationship. So you can do a little bit of both. And again, it's going to help you with that not building one at a time. And again, you're providing them content. Don't forget you're going to provide them content. You're going to provide them posts. You're going to provide them links. You're going to make it as easy for them as possible. You don't want to create a partner and then leave them on their own to create their own. Here's how I'm going to start working on your behalf to promote saving trees and dealing with the drought. Okay? You don't want them to have to think about it. You want to provide them with as much as possible. Any other questions before we leave social media and go to messaging? Any other specific questions or conversation on social media? Okay. Next. Oh, we covered that. I just didn't change the page.